Hi, welcome to our ProAV Academy series on tech terms, where we sit down with Alister Chapman and chat through some of the technical terms that just come up again and again in this industry. Alister is one of the best people I know at explaining complex technical concepts, so hopefully, just by casually chatting with him each one of these terms through, these videos can just help clear up some of the confusion that might be out there on each of these terms. Today, we're talking about what a color matrix is and what you need to know about them. So we've talked about color space and color gamut and all of those sorts of functions. One thing you see sometimes in camera menus is camera matrix. Is that something different?
So the color matrix is very similar in many respects to a lookup table.
Right.
So, and you may not have watched the lookup table video, I guess, at this point. So what does it do? So we have a sensor in the camera, or possibly three sensors, depending on the design of camera. And we have to get from the output of those to a color picture, perhaps Rec. 709. So we have to do some mathematics between what comes off the sensor and what that image finally looks like. And that's what the color matrix does. So the color matrix defines the calculations that take place to mix the red, the green and the blue from the sensor to give you a color picture. An example of that might make it a bit clearer what's going on is that in a typical color Rec. 709 image, green makes up something like 70% of the brightness information of that picture. So we're going to need a lot of green. Blue is probably only 10 or 20%, and then red is between 15 and 25%. So we have to mix the right amount of red with normally a lot of green and an even smaller amount of blue to get a color picture. And the matrix says, right, well, I'm going to take 10% blue, 70% green, 20% red to get my color image. So it does the mathematics that gives you that color picture. So it's a little bit like a lookup table in that it's a table of values that says we'll take X, Y, and Z to produce A, B, and C, and does the calculations and the mathematics in between. Now, because of the way video cameras work, using component video, which isn't RGB, it's Y, CB, CR color difference images, most camera matrix settings are based around color difference as opposed to RGB. And as a result, if you want to change the way your camera looks, if you want to change the colors of your camera, while you can change the matrix settings to do that, it's actually a really hard thing to do because you're not changing simply RGB, you are changing the color difference signals. So it's the amount of blue that's subtracted from the luminance, the brightness, to give you the right color. So it ends up, there's a lot of interactions because if you take a bit of blue out, it shifts the green. If you take a bit of green out, it shifts the red, and so on. So it's actually a very difficult thing to adjust yourself. But if you spend a bit of time and study it and are careful, you can then change the way your colors look. But because of the interactions, it's very important that if you do make changes to the matrix that you check in every shooting scenario. You know, you might make a load of changes and your indoor interviews look fantastic, and then you go outside on a day when you have a bright blue sky and instead of the sky being blue it's slightly green because of a change you've made in the matrix. So do test and do check if you make changes. But the matrix is essentially how you get from what comes off the sensor, which is going to be RGB, 100% of each, to our ordinary color picture, which isn't going to be 100% RGB. It's going to be a whole different combination of what came off those sensors.
So what are the real world uses of this? Why is it there as a function in the camera?
Well, it's there as a function in the camera so that you can change the way the colors look. Right. But it's really an old-fashioned, old-school peek into the engineering of the camera. In a pre-digital camera, it would have been little adjustable variable resistors that you could turn to change the gain in the different channels to get the final output, and an engineer would have sat with a scope and a test chart and spent a lot of time to calibrate it and get it just right. Today, with digital cameras, we make the adjustments electronically or through digital controls in the camera, but it's still there because an engineer will understand how the matrix works and how the colors are mixed and be able to adjust it and get a different outputs. For us mere mortals that want to just change the way the camera looks, generally now the camera manufacturers are getting a bit better at giving us RGB settings which are a bit more logical, a bit more red, a bit less green, a bit more blue, a bit less blue. We understand that, but trying to do the G minus R or the R minus R plus G adjustments to get a slightly different color look is really difficult, to be honest.
Sure. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful. Keep in mind, we also do a whole range of ProAV Academy workshops held right here in our UK showroom, where we cover a whole range of topics, from audio to post-production, camera techniques, business tips, lighting tips, and many more. The main aim of these workshops is to help our customers learn and develop their skills. And there's something about face-to-face training which can just never be replaced by videos like this one. So if you're in the UK, please do get a ticket from the link down below and join us for ProAV Academy.